بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على عبده ورسوله أما بعد. The author says الثاني اختيار المكان المناسب. With regards to the second instruction or piece of instruction or advice or technique with regards to how to memorize, he says choosing an appropriate location. Choosing an appropriate place. We have the time, now we have the place. Obviously, both of these things are related. And if you can master both of them and effectively implement and act upon both of them, if you can blend them together, marry them together, time and place, place and time, then obviously you have a better chance of having a strong memory. The author says, يختلف طلاب العلم في ذلك فبعضهم يقول أنا أتهيأ في المسجد للحفظ أكثر من البيت وبعضهم يقول أتهيأ في بيتي للحفظ أكثر من المسجد والضابط في ذلك أن تختار وقتا ومكانا يلائمان سواء أكان في مسجدك أو بيتك أو في مكتبة عامة أو في مزرعة. الشاهد أن هذا الأمر يعود إلى كل طالب علم بحسب ما يجد الأنفع في نفسه. The author tells us, some students, they say, I memorize easier in the masjid. Others say, in my home. Others say this and they say that, so on and so forth. He says, what's important is that you have to pick the place and the time that's appropriate for you. So whether it's the masjid, your house, public library, he says a mazra, a farm, wherever you are, on a bus, on a train, wherever you may be. The rooftop, somebody may say I go to the attic of my house or the basement of my house or the rooftop of my apartment building or the park in front of water at a lake, a river, a pond, on a bridge, in a car, on a train, on a plane, whatever suits you. He says is that this goes back to each and every student of knowledge according to what's most beneficial for you. Pay attention to these words now. Is that there is no solid, concrete, cement methodology. There are general principles, yes. There are proven techniques, yes. One can write about his or her own experiences. When I was in Yemen, I did this and I did that. When I was incarcerated, I did this and I did that, and it worked for me. And he can pass it on to the next person. It may work for the one who reads his memoir, or reads his manifesto, or reads his book. It may work for the one who reads the biography of Sheikh al-Albani, what Sheikh al-Albani used to do. It may work for you, and it may not work for you. There is no solid, set in stone way. Rather, it goes with the most appropriate, the most beneficial thing for you. So with regards to memorization and the whole entire philosophy of disciplism, being a disciple, is fluidity. There is no stuck one-way pattern. It is whatever works. However you win. That's the only thing that matters. And the methodology of a hadith disciple is not to worship form. It is not to worship tradition. Rather, it is to go with that which is applicable, that which is suitable, that which works. And obviously, with regards to the form or the tradition which is agreed upon, the form or the tradition which is our religious devotion, the kitab and the sunnah and the ijma', there's no doubt about that, the book and the sunnah, where that's not what we're speaking about. But we're talking about the different ijtihadat of the people of knowledge. Ibn Taymiyyah said this, Ibn al-Jawzi said that. Al-Izz ibn Abdul Salam, he said that, so on and so forth. That's his own ijtihad, his view. That's what worked for him in the 7th century, and the 3rd century, and the 5th century. Imam Ahmad said don't eat that and don't eat this, but it may not work for you. It may work for you. So fluidity, and fluidity. As we say, water takes the shape of the receptacle into which it's poured. Water doesn't know a shape or a matter. If you freeze it, it becomes ice. If you boil it, it becomes steam. وهكذا. And it's also transparent. So this is a very important concept for every student of knowledge, let alone for the way of the disciple. And that is, there is no stuck form. There is no worship of tradition according to one's taste and one's own view. But do what's good for you. What worked for me may not work for you. What's suitable for me may be totally unsuitable for you. The author, he then says, number 3, اختيار القدر المناسب من المتن المراد حفظه أو الشرح المراد قراءته is that you have to pick the appropriate amount of information that you choose to memorize. To pick the appropriate amount of the metin, the manual, or the sharh that you want to read and understand. This is applicable to the Quran al-Kareem, the Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, whatever is appropriate. بعض طلاب العلم يبتدئ في حفظ متن مطول فيضعف عنه فيصاب بنوع من الفتور والخمول وقد يصل به ذلك إلى اليأس وترك العلم ولا شك أن هذا من المغالطة فالعلم كما قال سلفنا لا يؤتيك بعضه حتى تؤتيه كلك والعلم كما قال الزهري أودية فمن تخبط فيها هلك ولكن إذا أخذها شعبا شعبا علم وعمل وتعلم. There's some students of knowledge who start off memorizing books, memorizing mutun. And these mutun may be big, they may be long. And then they lose their steam. They run out of steam, they run out of energy, they become frustrated. They become tired and worn out, exhausted. And some people, it gets so bad that they end up stop studying and they totally quit and they give up. They throw in the towel. And he says this is a major mistake. This is a major mistake. Just like our pious predecessors used to say, knowledge will never give you a part of itself until you give all of yourself to it. Knowledge will not give you some of itself unless you give all of yourself to knowledge. Just look at that now. That's an unfair deal. Yes, it's unfair. It is not a 50-50 agreement. No, knowledge never devotes itself in totality 101% to you. No way. You have to do that though. You have to keep your loyalty to knowledge, your dedication and your devotion to get a small piece of knowledge. But that small piece of knowledge that you get may be an ocean. Allah says, وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. Allah tells us in Surah Al-Isra, they ask you concerning the ruh, the soul and the spirit. قُلِ الرُّوحُ, Allah says, tell them, O Muhammad, that the ruh is from the things that my Lord knows about and no one else. مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي. And you've only been given a little bit of knowledge. This verse is applicable to Imam al-Bukhari. Allah says you've only been given a little bit of knowledge. And Imam Bukhari, how much knowledge did he have? Imam Ahmed, Ibn Taymiyyah. Yet and still Allah says about man in general that he only has a little bit of knowledge. So that 20% that you may get from knowledge may be rooms and rooms of books, wisdom, information, memorization, and the list goes on. But you have to give 101%. You have to sweat, you have to bleed, you have to cry, you have to suffer, you have to sacrifice everything that you have to get a little bit of knowledge. And the more sacrifice that you offer, the more work that you put in, the more dedication that you have, the more knowledge Allah will bless you with. So don't look at people who you feel are successful and have become great scholars of Islam and just open up your mouth. Wow. But ask yourself, how did he get to that status? How did Allah bless him with what Allah blessed him with, except through hard work, through sacrifice? When we read the biographies of the ulama of Hadith, this is a staple concept that you're going to find on pretty much every page of the book about the life of this one and the life of that one, what he gave up, what he sold, okay, the problems that he experienced with the rulers, with the sultan, all right, with his family, with his children, with his health, just to seek hadith. And that's how he became Imam Dar-Qutni, okay? That's how he became Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi. Read about the trials and tribulations that he went through in Baghdad and the people that hated him and were jealous against him. Read about how Imam al-Bukhari died. Okay? This is not a walk in a candy store. There's no sweet thing. Knowledge has to be earned. And the more that you put in, bid'nillahi ta'ala, the more that Allah will bless you with of this knowledge. The author, he then says, Az-Zuhri, the great Imam of the Saghar al-Tabi'een, he said, knowledge is Odiya. It says many, many valleys, all types of valleys. He says, فَمَنْ تَخَبَّطَ فِيهَا هَلَكَ. He says, anyone who just runs in those valleys and chases after all of the valleys, halak, he'll get lost. He'll be destroyed. He'll die of starvation. He'll be poisoned, step on a thorn. He'll be attacked by a wild dog or a coyote or wolf, whatever the case may be. A scorpion. He won't survive in those valleys, in those wastelands. He says, however, if you take valley by valley, piece by piece, then bi'idhnillahi ta'ala you will learn. He says, you will act bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, you'll achieve ilm if you take it piece by piece and step by step. Now, one may ask, before we move on to the rest of the kalam of the author, how do I know which matan I should memorize and which matan I shouldn't memorize? And how do I know what's too big, what's not too big, what's too small, so on and so forth? First and foremost is that there is no set in stone rule. One person's 10 pages may be easy, and another person's 10 pages may be a nightmare. One person to memorize 1,000 lines of a poem may be sahal, and the next person is too difficult to memorize a mukhtasar version. So it depends from person to person. The general way is that you go under the guidance of your teacher. Ask your teacher, what should I memorize? Or go to your teacher with what you've memorized and recite it to him. And if you're making mistakes and you're stuttering, he says, oh, no, you need to go back. Or maybe you need to do a smaller book. If you don't have a teacher, then you have to ask someone that you have contact with. Someone that you can't necessarily sit with, but you can sit with them, quote unquote, virtually. What's important is that you have to seek the advice of those who have preceded you, those who have went down the path, ask their advice. As far as if you're self-educated and if you're self-taught, and as we said before, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that if that's the only thing that you have. If that's the only way. If there is no one to teach you, teach yourself. It's better than being ignorant. You have to try it out. And you have to make your own experiences by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The author then says, فَالشَّاهِدُ اِخْتَرْ قَدْرًا مُنَاسِبًا وَلَوْ كَانَ يَسِيرًا. He says what's important is that you pick what is appropriate, even if it's a little. Even if it's only 1 page a day. That's better than 10 pages on one day and then no pages for a week. Everybody understand this? All right, we all know the tremendous wisdom of the famous story that we were told when we were younger about the tortoise and about the hare. The hare is fast, quick, agile. It hops, it jumps, it runs really, really quick or quickly. And the tortoise is slow, cumbersome, sticky like molasses, doesn't move too fast. But the hare eventually runs out of steam. The hare will become exhausted, and the tortoise paces itself. It's slow and steady. That's what wins the race. And when you light the match, it's very hot, instant fire, but it will die out very, very soon. The author, he says, وَلِهَذَا بَعْضُ طُلَابِ الْعِلْمِ يَأْتِي وَلَهُ هِمَّةٌ عَالِيَةٌ فيبدأ في متن طويل أو شرح طويل فإذا حفظ كثرت أغلاطه سواء في إسقاط جملة أو تبديل جملة أو في خطأ لغوي أو نحوي وكذا لو قرأ ذلك الشرح المطول فلم يفهم كثيرا مما قرأ قد يصاب بنوع من الإحباط لكن لو أخذ متنا قصيرا أو شرحا قصيرا وجزأه كما سيأتي بيانه لوجد أن ذلك تحصيلا يسيرا يدفعه إلى الاستمرارية حتى يكون الحفظ والفهم أمرا مألوفا. Author says, some students of knowledge, they start off by memorizing a big book or reading a long explanation, and after some time, you see more and more mistakes and flaws reveal themselves. A person misses a sentence. A person misses a line or two or three. A person begins to mix and match and jumble information up. And you start making many mistakes in the nahu. A fatha there, but it's supposed to be a kasra. A dhamma there, but it's supposed to be a waw. It's supposed to be elongated and not short. He says, but if a person, he says, reading a long sharh, then they don't understand much of what they read. Now, when we stop the tape, we see that this also applies to reading a sharh of a scholar who's more famous, who's more prominent, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best sharh for a beginner. It does not mean that it is the best explanation for a mubtadi. This sharh of Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen, let's say a hypothetical example, is the best sharh. Or if it's not the best sharh, it's one of the best shuruh. Or Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen is the most famous of the ulama who explained this book, modern day. However, there's another scholar, a doctor, there's another talib in Mauritania who made a sharh of this book, who's not as famous, who's not as well known, who's not as prominent, but his sharh is shorter, it's smaller, it's more concise, and it's better for the beginner. So many beginners who have bad companions, unfortunately, and what we mean by bad companions that don't know the right way themselves. They say, oh no, here's the 400-page sharh of Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen. That's the best sharh to get. 400 pages and he's just barely learning how to speak and read Arabic properly. And the person who wrote the book from Mauritania, he has the sharh in 60 pages, concise, lean, very simple, basic examples, 65 pages, 60 pages. So he picks up the 400-page book, Shaykh Uthaymeen, oh man, he starts reading it, he understands a few things, next thing you know, he puts the book down because it's too much. It's too much of an incline, it's too hard for him to climb that mountain and get over that hump. And then he quits and he leaves it off. Or he finishes the 400 pages at best, but if you sat down and asked him about the basic meaning of the metin, he can't explain anything in his own words. He can't analyze anything. He can't break down anything because it's too much. And that's why we say never bite off more than you can chew. Never bite off more than you can chew. Even if it's a delicious, juicy steak, leave it alone and take the ground beef. That's better for you. Something that you can chew, you can swallow, and you can digest. Instead of taking something that's too big that you can't even bite into, let alone swallow, let alone digest. The author, he then says, if you take a smaller book or a smaller explanation and then you split it up, and that's the next technique, is to divide and separate. If you have the 400-page book, break it down into 20-page sections. That's not a bad idea either. Okay, it's not always about small or size, because there's some small books which may be more difficult. The 400-page book of Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, we reverse it. Now let's reverse the technique. The 400-page book of Shaykh Uthaymeen might be easier to understand than the 60-page book of the scholar from Mauritania. What's important is that you have size and you have simplicity and ease. Everybody clear on this? And also with size, you just break it down. You take 400 pages and you slice it up. You take 60 pages and you divide it. You take the 200 lines of the poem and you divide it piece by piece, step by step, square by square, valley by valley. The author, he says, and we'll explain this later on, the author says, he then says, if you practice this, not only will you, bidnai get done, he says, but it will allow you to continue in your studies. We're saying it will increase your appetite. A small snack may get you in the mood for a meal, an appetizer, hors d'oeuvres, whatever the case may be. Finger food. Bidnai ta'ala, it gets you ready to eat something bigger and better. So you read the 60-page book, or I read the 400-page book and I broke it down in sections, or I memorized the poem, I memorized the sharh, I memorized the 40 hadith. Now I want more. It's not enough. I'm not satisfied. It was good, but I'm still hungry. I want something else now for my next meal. So this is a very important concept, and that is not being hasty. Don't be too hasty. Knowledge is not obtained in one day or a week, a month, or a year. It takes a very long time, okay? As we say, steep is the way to mastery. It's very steep. And bidnai ta'ala, as long as you have the ambition, as long as you feel that you're not good enough and I haven't done enough, then you're on the right track. Bidnai subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, and when this takes place with regards to hifz, he says, and you look forward to memorizing more, and then memorization becomes normal. It becomes traditional. It becomes easy for you now because you're used to it. The fourth point, the author says, اختيار الهيئة المناسبة. He says, choosing an appropriate disposition, an appropriate situation, okay, with regards to sitting or standing or however the case may be, heat, cold, whatever the case may be. بعض الناس الآن قد يكون يمشي في السيارة مثلا ثم يريد أن يحفظ قد يحفظ نوعا ما لكن لو تأخر حفظه فقد يصاب بنوع من الضعف لكن الذي ينبغي هو أن يختار وقتا مناسبا ومكانا مناسبا وقدرا مناسبا وهيئة مناسبة. يقول بعضهم الحفظ في حال المشي والتردد أفضل من المجالسة. وأعرف طلاب علم يقولون لا يمكن أن نحفظ إلا أن نمشي ذهابا إيابا. وبعضهم يقول لو أمشي يرتج علي الحفظ. وبعض الناس يقول لا أستطيع أن أضبط حفظ القرآن إلا وأنا أقوم في وسط الليل وأبدأ في الحفظ أما في النهار فلا يتيسر لي. فأنت يا طالب علم لا تقلد زيدا ولا عمرا فقد يكون زيد يناسبه الحفظ وهو جالس أو هو يمشي وقد تحاول أن تحاكيه لكن لا يتيسر لك هذا. وبكل حال فانظر إلى ما ينفعك والضابط في ذلك أنت. فيك الخصام وأنت الخصم والحكم. فإذا عرفت من نفسك أن ذلك أنفع لنفسك فافعل. He says here, some people when they drive, they try to memorize, but it's difficult. They may become distracted, or they may lose their focus. Okay, they don't have the strength and the power to do it. He says, but there's some people, if they wait until the appropriate time, appropriate place, the appropriate physical situation, he says, then they can memorize easier, or in an easier way, a more proficient way. Excuse me. He says some people say that it's easier to walk and to stand when you memorize, to walk back and forth, all right, than it is to sit down. There's some people who say we can't memorize unless we walk and stand. That's the only way that we can memorize. And there are others who say I can't memorize when I walk and when I stand, but I have to sit down. Okay? The author is giving you examples of different hayat, physical dispositions, standing, sitting, walking somewhere to a distance, or walking back and forth like a room, or from one end of a place to the next. Some people, he said, they differ, all right? Now, from my humble personal experiences, alhamdulillah, I had the blessing of Allah showered upon me to live among really good students of knowledge. And some of them were in America, some of them were in Yemen, some of them were in Medina. And I got a chance to see them and to pay attention and to observe, to talk to some of them and have some of them mentor me and train me. And in Medina, I realized at a very quick time, the concept of walking. People would tell me about it. Try it out. So you stand up with your book, you read it. عن عبد الله بن عمر رضي الله تعالى عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال. Then you put down the book and you try to say it back. And you walk from one end of the Prophet's masjid to the next, or one side to the next. You know, the different parts of the Prophet's masjid where it's like a main, like a split, like half of the masjid, the width or the length. Now, okay, and you have your book and you walk from one end, then you walk to the next end. عن عبد الله بن عمر رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. And you walk back and forth in a span of an hour. And the next thing you know, you memorize the Hadith of Ibn Umar, then the next Hadith, then the third and the fifth, and so on and so forth, however long it takes you. And you try it out. And I tried it out, and I experienced it that it does work. It does work. Or you may be in your apartment or your dorm room, and you may walk from wall to wall. It may not be that big or that expansive. Or also, we learned the different techniques of memorizing sitting down. Sitting down. Fold your legs and sit down. Close your eyes. Or look at the pillar in front of you. Or sit in a corner, as we said. What's important is whatever works. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, if Allah has blessed you enough and you have enough talent, natural raw talent, and also enough skill, techniques that you have learnt and have been taught and trained, and which you can memorize no matter what the case. I'm sitting in the car driving to school at 7 a.m. in the morning, I'm memorizing, making review for an exam, or making review for a class. I'm walking to the Prophet's masjid after Asr, between Asr and Maghrib, walking down the street, reading a book. It's hot, it's sun, whatever the case may be, sitting in the car, it's nighttime. We would leave the Prophet's masjid and we would walk home and we would memorize, we would study hadiths, read books, walking home from the Prophet's masjid, and it was dark outside. People looked at us like we were crazy. When we went to the restaurant, we take our books with us, we would read, we would study. So bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we have the premium or the optimal level of memorizing, that which is best, most appropriate. And then after you master that and you learn what's your specific gear and speed, you have to memorize and read wherever you are, whatever your situation is, at nighttime, in bed, whatever you're doing. Everybody understand this? And inshallah ta'ala, as we said, if you have enough talent and enough skill, you can memorize anything. You can memorize something by hearing it once and then locking it into your heart and keep it forever. ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ يُؤْتِيهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah gives His bounty to whom He wills, subhanahu wa ta'ala. The author, he says, some people say, I can't memorize the Quran unless it's at nighttime, unless I go to sleep and wake up in the later parts of the night. Some people say, I have to do it in the daytime, etc. Listen carefully once more to the rule that we laid down. He says, O student of knowledge, he says, do not blindly follow Zayd or Amr, meaning John, Jim, Dick, Harry, this one, Bob, Martin, Michael, whoever. Don't blind follow none of them. He says, do that which is good for you. Whether you're sitting down, whether you're walking, or whatever the case may be. He says, as far as copycatting and imitating people and trying to be like people and mimicking people, he says it may work, but it may not work for you. He says you have to look at what's most beneficial for you. So if you take it from someone and it works for you, alhamdulillah. And if you take from someone and it does not work for you and it's difficult and is not producing the necessary results with time, of course, don't be hasty. It may be difficult at first, but as time goes on, you've done it properly, you follow those instructions, it's just not working at all for you, then that's something that's obviously incorrect and wrong. Everybody understand this. You have to do that which is a benefit for you. Pay careful attention to these words. They're not my words. We explained our methodology, hadith disciple, but listen, let's say it to the sheikh, to the scholar, okay? He's saying, don't be a goat. Don't be a sheep. Don't just tag along and blind follow. You can learn from people, yes. You can borrow. You can benefit. You can learn something from something that's been proven to work. It's a foundation of knowledge. It's been there for years and years and years. They've all done it. Try it out, but it may not work for you. What's important is that you have to try. So once more, if it works for you, alhamdulillah. And if it doesn't work for you, then you have to try another style. Khairan, inshallah. The author, he didn't quote a line of poetry with regards to you being the, let's translate it like this. In our modern times, you being the prosecutor, he says the defendant, the plaintiff, the judge, the jury, everybody. You're the whole entire courtroom. In other words, people arguing about you, defending you, trying to incriminate you, making a judge on you. In other words, you have to look at yourself. Everybody understand this. You have to worry about what's good for you. And we always say these words. And the same applies to your household, your community, your city, your country. Don't always try to be like the next person if it doesn't work for you. If the system works in one place, alhamdulillah, but it may not work. Or it may need tailoring. You have to adjust it. This is a general curriculum from Medina University, but my people come from America. They pronounce words a certain way. They have different study habits. Where I come from, my culture, people don't read books. The person they know, everyone wants to watch television. No one reads a book. So you have to adjust it. You have to tweak it. You have to trim it. You have to cut it. And you have to make a custom-made suit to fit the person's personality. Not just his size, but his personality, his shoes, his hairstyle. All of these things come into play when you talk about a master tailor. As far as an average tailor, a poor man's tailor, then he just measures the arms and the shoulders and that's it. But a master tailor, he takes everything into consideration. And everything that you need and want is in one place. You need a belt, handkerchief, bow tie, cufflinks, socks. Everything that you need is in one place, and we're going to do everything for you because it's one unified, cohesive body. The author then says, يقول بعض أئمة الشافعية القراءة العالية للحفظ والقراءة الخفية للفهم. It says some Shafi'i Imams, they said, when you recite out loud, it's for memory. Or when you read out loud, it's for memory. When you read to yourself, it's for understanding. وهذا مجرب فإن الإنسان إذا أراد أن يحفظ ثم قرأ بصوت عال وردد قد يكون أنفع له. لكن إن كنت ترى من نفسك أن هذا لا ينفعك أو يؤخر حفظك فاسلك ما تراه أنسب لك كما سبق تقرير ذلك. He says this is something which is proven by experience. Reading out loud, reading silently. Okay. He says what's important is to try it out. If it works, if it's holding you back, then abandon it, as we previously mentioned. Very important point for us to reiterate, and that is take your time and do not rush. You may get advice from your teacher, and you may think that the advice is garbage. It doesn't make any sense. It's stupid. What do you mean, just keep reading this? What do you mean, read this book? What do you mean, this and that? Try it out. Humble yourself. You never know. It may work for you. Give it the proper time. And then as you go on and you use the technique, say, wow, subhanAllah, it worked for me, like magic. I'm sorry that I was hasty. The teacher will smile. He'll make a smirk on his face. And he says, I know. You don't have to tell me that it works. As many students, they do. Say Sahih. Right, Naam, Sahih. He says, you don't have to tell me that. I know that it works because I did it. My teacher did it. And all of my classmates, we did it for years overseas. So I knew that it would work. I knew that you were hasty though. Okay? And there's another etiquette of seeking knowledge is not to tell your teacher, right, Sahih. As many brothers, they do this. That's why when Jibreel alayhi salam came to the Prophet ﷺ and he asked him about Islam, the Messenger of Allah alayhi salam told him what Islam was. He said, Sadaqta. He says, you have spoken the truth. And what did the companion say? فَأَجِبْنَا لَهُ يَسْأَلُهُ وَيُصَدِّقُهُ. It says, we were shocked. He asked him a question and then he verifies that he spoke the truth. In other words, that's not the proper etiquette. Khairan, inshallah. The fifth point, the author, he says, تَجْزِيَةُ الْمَحْفُوظ. He says, breaking down what you wish to memorize into ajza, into juz, into smaller sections. Khairan, inshallah. We'll stop here for today's lesson. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to implement and to practice what we have heard. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.